Good morning, students. We live in a mobile age, so today everyone is familiar with the word photograph. Though majority hardly keeps photograph in the form of hard copy, as we take out many pics and store them as soft copy in the modern gadgets like mobiles, laptops, etc. But in the past, due to the absence of this technology, people used to go to studio to take out their photographs. Then after some years, some handy camera of various companies like Kodak, Sony, etc. came in the market. So that one who had his personal camera, he can take out photograph at any time and at any place. The people used to get their photograph pasted on the cardboard or in the frame or in the album, etc. Many of you also must be having photograph of your parents, grandparents, and even your family, etc., hanging on the walls of your drawing room. Today, we are going to learn the first poem from the textbook Hornbill. The name of the poem is A Photograph, written by Shirley Tulson. About the poetess. Shirley Tulson was born on 20th May 1924 in Henley-on-Thames, England, as the daughter of Douglas Hornfall Dixon and Marjorie Brown. She had a huge passion for writing and was greatly influenced by her father, who was a writer too. She secured a BA in literature from Brockenhurst College in London in the year 1953. Shortly, she took writing as a career but also served as the editor for many magazines in meantime. She married Alan Brownson on 6 February 1960. They had three children. Celtic Christianity influenced her greatly, that most of her major works, like Celtic Alternative in 1987 and Celtic Year in 1993, were on that topic. But these works indeed made her more famous. Students, here you are given some of her famous literary works. These works are given only for your information. Theme of the poem. The poem A Photograph is written by Shirley Tulson. In this poem, she recalls her mother and her memories while looking at a childhood photograph when her mother was 12 years old or so. She has been deceased 12 years ago and she cannot explain her grief on her mother's loss. Summary of the poem A Photograph. This poem is a tribute to the poetess mother. She is looking at an old photograph of her mother, which has a frame of cardboard. The picture has three girls, in which the middle one is the oldest and tallest. It is her mother when she was 12 years old or so. Beside her, on both sides, are her two cousins, Betty and Dolly, who are holding her hands and younger than her. They went for paddling on a beach holiday. Her uncle took the photograph then. The poetess could not help but notice her mother's sweet face. The sea touched her terribly transient wit, which depicted that she changed over the years and the sea remained the same. After 20, 30 years, her mother would laugh at the photograph. She would make the poetess look at the photograph and tell her how their parents would dress them up for the beach holiday. The beach holiday was her mother's favorite past memories, while her laugh was the poetess' favorite memory. Both of them lost something which they cherished a lot and yet cannot live that moment again. Those sweet moments were memories now. Now, the poetess' mother had been dead for the past 12 years, which is the same number as of her age when the photograph was taken back then. She cannot express the grief that she has from her mother's absence. Students, now be ready with your textbook, Hornbill, page number 11, where this poetry is given. Here I begin with first four lines of the poem and then difficult word and explanation of those lines. The cardboard shows me how it was when the two girl cousins went paddling, each one holding one of my mother's hands. And she, the big girl, some 12 years or so. Difficult word is paddling, meaning is walking. Now explanation of these lines. Here in these lines, the poetess is looking at an old photograph of her mother pasted on a cardboard. In the picture, there are three girls who are walking on the beach holding each other's hands. The girl in the middle is the tallest and oldest. The other two girls on each side are younger than her. The girl in the middle is the poetess' mother. She is around 12 years old when the picture was taken. Now next few lines. All three stood still to smile through their hair at the uncle with camera, a sweet face, my mother's. That was before I was born. And the sea, which appears to have changed less, washed their terribly transient fate. Difficult word is transient, meaning is short term or temporary. In the above lines, the poetess describes how the photograph was taken. Her mother's uncle took the photograph and told them to stop and pause. The wind had blown their hair on their faces, which were full of smiles of joy and fun. All three of them smiled at the camera. The poetess' attention is drawn towards her mother's face, which is described as a sweet face. The photograph was taken long before the poetess was born. The poetess calls their fate terrible transient, as they were so young by then, and now they had grown older. On the other hand, the sea which touched their fate has changed less. Now, next few lines. Some 20-30 years later, she would laugh at the snapshot. See Betty and Dolly, she would say, and look how they dressed us for the beach, the sea holiday. Here, difficult word maybe for some of the students. Snapshot, meaning is photograph. Here in the above lines, the poetess says that after 20-30 years later, her mother would laugh at the photograph. She would tell me to look at her cousins, Betty and Dolly, and how their parents would dress all three of them up for the beach. Her mother would remember the carefree happy days. They would have planned to take a photograph beforehand. Next two lines. The sea holiday was her past. Mine is her laughter, both rife with the labored ease of loss. Difficult words. Wry means ironic or mocking. Labored meaning is slogged. Here in these lines, the poetess recalls that the sea holiday was her mother's favorite moment from the past, while the poetess' favorite moment from the past was her mother's laughter. Both the women would think about those past memories which they cannot live again. They tried their best to adjust to what they lost. Here the poetess understood the difficulty to ease the loss and void that she was feeling. Now, last four lines. Now she has been dead nearly as many years as that girl lived, and of this circumstance there is nothing to say at all. Its silence silences. Here, silences means a complete absence of sound. Here in these lines, the poetess recalled that it was nearly 12 years since her mother passed away. When she looked at the photograph, memories of her mother's smile came to her. In the above lines, the poetess says that her mother died 12 years ago, the same age her mother was in the photograph. Whenever the poetess thinks of her mother's death, she cannot explain what effect she has of her mother's death. Death has silenced her mother, which has also left her speechless and silent.